Single parenting can feel like a solo journey, but it doesn't have to be. Introducing Mom Flex app, the ultimate village web app designed just for you. From financial support to community connections, Mom Flex app offers a lifeline, helping you navigate parenting with confidence. Find trusted resources, build your support network, and thrive, because every parent deserves a village. Join the movement today. Visit momflex.org to install the app and take the first step toward a stronger, more supported you.
Every day's a battle, every step a climb, but we're standing tall, we're building our lives. Through the sleepless nights and the endless fight, we rise, we shine, we hold on tight.
Welcome back to Beyond the Struggle, Rise and Thrive. I'm your host, La Fortune, and this is a space where we dig beneath the surface of life's challenges to uncover the strength, the lessons, and the growth waiting on the other side. Today's episode is called Raising Them Right, Still Getting It Wrong? It's more than just a question, it's a gut check, one that stirs guilt, confusion, and sometimes even heartbreak. It's a question that lives quietly in the minds of parents who feel like they did everything right and still something didn't go as planned. You followed the advice, read the parenting books, cover to cover. You stayed up at night worrying, planning, praying. You modeled values, discipline, love. You gave what you didn't have and sacrificed more than you let on. You showed up day after day, year after year. You tried. But then the day comes when your child makes choices you never expected. They struggle in ways that catch you off guard. Maybe with mental health, addiction, broken relationships, or just a deep unhappiness you don't know how to fix. And you are left standing there with this ache in your chest, wondering, where did I go wrong? In this episode, we are going to unpack that question, not to place blame, but to bring healing. Not to offer easy answers, but to create a space for honesty, compassion, and maybe a little bit of grace for yourself and for the journey. Because the truth is, raising a human is not an exact science. It's a dance between nurture and nature, between control and surrender. And no matter how perfect your intentions were, the outcome is never fully in your hands. Let's talk about the grief, the guilt, and the grace. Let's hold space for the love and the lessons. And above all, let's remind ourselves that this isn't the end of our story. It's just another chapter in the process of rising and thriving. Let's get into it, shall we? The way of intentions. Let's start with that. Most parents start with love and the best intentions. You wanted to give your child a better life, to shield them from pain, to shape them into someone who could thrive in a complicated world. But here's the part that's hard to swallow. Love, as powerful and necessary as it is, isn't always enough to guarantee outcome. Maybe you set out to raise a strong, independent thinker, someone who could speak their mind and stand on their own. And now, years later, you find yourself clashing with their choices, the way they dress, the career path they have chosen, the people they surround themselves with. You are watching them walk into storms you try to warn them about, and they won't or can't hear you. Or maybe you focus on teaching resilience. You praise hard work, emphasize grit, and made sure they knew how to handle life's inevitable disappointments. But now they are anxious, overwhelmed, shutting down when life gets heavy. They're spiraling under the pressure you thought will strengthen them. Here's the hard truth. Good parenting doesn't always produce predictable, perfect results. And it is not because you failed. It's because children are not blank slates. They are people, complex, evolving, and uniquely themselves. They come into this world with their own wiring, their own sensitivities, and their own lens through which they interpret everything you do. You see, intentions matter, but so do perception and context. What you meant as protection, monitoring their friendships, keeping them close, setting strict boundaries, might have been experienced as control. It may have planted a seed of rebellion or mistrust. What you meant as encouragement, you can be anything. You have got to be the best. I believe in you, might have been felt as pressure. And that pressure may have quietly convinced them that failure equals disappointment and that they are only loved when they are excelling. Consider this. A single mother who works double shifts, barely sleeping, just to keep the lights on and food in the fridge. She believes she's showing her children what sacrifice, resilience, and love look like in action. But from her daughter's eyes, all she remembers is coming home to an empty house, doing homework alone, and wondering why mom never had time to just be with her. The lesson she learned wasn't about hard work. It was about emotional absence. Or a single father raising his son in a world that often devalues young men who look like him. He insists his son speaks properly, dresses sharply, and avoids any hint of trouble. In his heart, he's trying to protect him, arming him with tools for survival. But to his son, it feels like rejection of his natural expression, his style, his voice, like who he really is isn't safe to be, even at home. These stories you see are everywhere, and they don't mean we are bad parents or that love didn't exist. They mean the journey of parenting is layered. It's a conversation between your actions and their experience, between what you meant and what they received. And sometimes the hardest, most important work is not in correcting them, but in reflecting on how we showed up, how they felt, and how we can reconnect from here. Now let's talk about control versus connection. One of the biggest struggles in parenting, especially solo parenting, is balancing control with connection. When you are the only one steering the ship, it can feel like the pressure is double. You are juggling the roles of provider, protector, nurturer, disciplinarian, and often emotional anchor. And with so much weight on your shoulders, it's easy, understandably easy, to focus more on shaping behavior than tuning into the emotional undercurrent. You pour your energy into making sure they stay out of trouble, get good grades, respect authority, and turn out right. You set rules, enforce structure, sacrifice sleep and self-care because deep down, you believe it's love in action. And it is. But sometimes, that fierce focus on control, on keeping everything from falling apart, can unintentionally push emotional attunement to the background. Here's the quiet cost. That ever familiar line, "I did it for your own good," can land hard on a child who never felt truly seen, heard, or emotionally understood. Sometimes, in the effort to raise them right, the focus shifts from relationship to result. It becomes more about compliance than connection, more about keeping them safe than sitting with their fears, more about discipline than dialogue. And that's often where the disconnection begins, especially as they grow older, develop their own voice, and start to question not only the world, but how they were brought up in it. They may push back, not because they don't love you, but because they are trying to make sense of the rules they live by and the emotional terrain they inherited. Think of the single mother who worked 2 jobs to provide everything her child needed: clothes, school supplies, hot meals. She kept them off the street and in church, taught them right from wrong, but she never had the bandwidth to talk about emotions or sit in stillness when they were hurting. And now her son says he felt invisible, that she was always doing but rarely there. Or the single dad who became hyper-disciplined after his partner left, wanting to prove he could raise respectful, well-behaved kids. But his daughter, the rules felt rigid. His silence when she cried felt cold. And now that she's grown, there is a wall between them he doesn't know how to tear down. This isn't about blame. It's about truth and healing. Because even the strongest intentions can sometimes lead to emotional distance. And connection is not about perfection. It's about presence. The real power lies in our willingness to revisit the narrative, to shift from "I did what I had to do" to "how did it land for you?" To trade defense for curiosity, to reach for empathy instead of control. And for single parents, especially, who often carry guilt, exhaustion, and fierce love all at once, it's important to remember you don't have to be perfect to be enough, and it is never too late to reconnect.
Can feel like a solo journey, but it doesn't have to be. Introducing Mom Flex app, the ultimate village web app designed just for you. From financial support to community connections, Mom Flex app offers a lifeline, helping you navigate parenting with confidence. Find trusted resources, build your support network, and thrive, because every parent deserves a village. Join the movement today. Visit momflex.org to install the app and take the first step toward a stronger, more supported you.
So what now? If you are a parent, especially a single parent, carrying the quiet weight of guilt, regret, or confusion over where things may have gone wrong, take a deep breath. A truly deep breath. You are not alone, and you are not a failure. You did what you could with what you had. Sometimes that meant making impossible choices. Sometimes it meant putting food on the table over attending a school play. Sometimes it meant showing strength when you really needed was space to fall apart. But here's the truth. Healing doesn't require perfection. It begins with humility. The first step is being willing to say, "I see how now my good intentions might have caused them harm. I want to understand your experience better." That kind of openness is powerful. It doesn't erase the past, but it begins to soften the sharp edges of it. And for single parents, it's often about shifting from doing to listening, from protecting to connecting. Consider this. A single mom who raised 3 kids on her own. She ran her household like a tight ship. No room for backtalk, no time for feelings. Now her oldest son barely calls. She wonders what happened. One day she decides to ask, not with accusation, but with curiosity. He tells her, I always knew you loved us, but I didn't know if you liked me. You were always tired or angry. I needed more than discipline. I needed you to see me. That moment cracked something open, not in shame, but in grace. Or the single dad whose daughter is now in therapy, unpacking the silence she grew up with. He always thought he was doing right by her by not bringing drama into the house, by keeping his feelings to himself. But in doing so, he unintentionally taught her to bottle her own. When he finally says, I didn't know how to show up emotionally. I was just trying to survive. Her tears aren't of blame. They are of release. You don't have to be a perfect parent to be a healing one. It is never too late to ask the hard question. What do you wish I had done differently? What did you need that I missed? What does love look like to you now? That conversation you have been avoiding, the one that feels too tender or too terrifying, it might just be the doorway to something sacred. And if you are the child in this equation, now grown and sitting with the ache or confusion of your own upbringing, hear this. Healing doesn't erase or mean erasing the past. It means holding space for the complexity of it. It means allowing the truth that your parents may have loved you deeply and still hurt you deeply. That they may have given you everything they could and still fallen short in ways that mattered. Both can be truth. And your healing doesn't have to wait for their apology. But if you are lucky and that moment comes, it can be the beginning of a new kind of relationship, one built on honesty, empathy, and maybe, just maybe, repair.
Every day's a battle, every step a climb, but we're standing tall, we're building our lives. Through the sleepless nights and the endless fight, we rise, we shine, we hold on tight. We are more than the labels, more than the pain, breaking the cycle, rewriting the game. Stronger together, we lift, we strive. Single parents, we rise and thrive.
We all get things wrong. Every parent, every person, there's no blueprint, no perfect script, especially for single parents who have had to figure it out on the fly, often while carrying more than their share fare of the load. You may have lost your temper. You may have shut down emotionally to survive the chaos. You may have leaned too hard into control because you were afraid everything and everyone might fall apart if you let go even for a second. But the power isn't in being flawless. The power lies in how we respond to the truth of our missteps. Do we double down on shame, silence, and the story that this is just the way things are? Or do we rise with humility, courage, and compassion and say, I want to do this differently now? That decision, that shift is not small. It's important. It's necessary. Because maybe raising them right was never about crafting perfect children with flawless records and shiny resumes. Maybe it was always about something deeper, creating a safe, sturdy foundation, one that could hold their growth and their mistakes, one where they could lean or learn to fall and get back up, one that showed them that love or what love looks like, not just in provision but in presence, not just in rules but in relationship. Imagine this. A single mom used to yell when the stress boiled over. She begins pausing, taking a breath and saying, "I'm sorry. That wasn't fair." Her kids don't just see discipline anymore. They see accountability. They learn how to own their emotions because she is learning how to own hers. Or a single father who always prided himself on being tough. He sits with his grown son one day and says, "I didn't know how to be emotionally open when you were young, but I want to learn now." That vulnerability doesn't undo the past, but it opens a door that had been locked for years. That's the heart of going beyond the struggle, choosing connection over control, courage over pride, and healing over history. So if you are listening and wondering if it's too late or if the distance between you and your child can ever be bridged, know this. It is not about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about showing up, maybe differently than before, with softer edges, with open hands, with a willingness to start again. Because the goal was never to raise perfect kids. The goal was to raise whole people. And wholeness grows best in the soil of grace, truth, and the kind of love that's brave enough to begin again. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a quote from Carl Jung that feels especially relevant, particularly for those walking the road of parenthood alone. The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of their parents. Let that sit with you for a moment. As single parents, it's easy to put your entire life on pause, to tuck away your dreams, silence your needs, and pour everything into your children. You convince yourself that your sacrifices are the highest form of love, and in many ways they are. But when we abandon our own growth, healing, and joy, our children can feel that too. Even if they don't have the words for it, they sense the weight of your unspoken disappointment. They notice when you dim your light. They carry the tension of dreams deferred, ones they may feel obligated to fulfill or avoid altogether. That's why your healing matters. Your joy matters. Your honesty, your self-reflection, your choice to try again, they matter. Not just for you, but for the generations that are watching you and learning what it means to be whole. So if you are listening today and you are in the thick of it, juggling bills, emotions, and 1,000 daily decisions, unsure if you are getting any of it right, hear this. You don't have to carry it all in silence. You are allowed to take up space in your own story. You are allowed to evolve, to change your mind, to dream again. And more importantly, your kids don't just need a parent who's always strong. They need one who's real, one who's willing to grow, to apologize, to show what it looks like to live fully, even in the aftermath of mistakes. Thank you for being here with me today on Beyond the Struggle, Rise and Thrive. If this episode touched something in you, I invite you to share with someone who might need a little hope today. A fellow single parent, an adult child still unpacking their past, a friend trying to break generational cycles. And if you're somewhere in the messy middle, still figuring it all out, still rising after the fall, remember this: you are not alone. You are still rising. You are still thriving, even in the mess, especially in the mess. Until next time, keep going, keep growing. We are in this together. The pleasure was mine today. Ciao now.
Every day's a battle, every step a climb, but we're standing tall, we're building our lives. Through the sleepless nights and the endless fight, we rise, we shine, we hold on tight. We are more than the labels, more than the pain, breaking the cycle, rewriting the game. Stronger together, we lift, we strive. Single parents, we rise and thrive. Beyond the struggle, we rise and thrive. Turning our pain into power, we're alive. We see you, you matter, you're strong inside. Together we shine, we rise, we thrive. Stories of triumph, stories of grace. Single parents with dreams to chase. They said we'd break, they said we'd fall, but look at us now, we're standing tall. We are more than the labels, more than the pain, breaking the cycle, rewriting the game. Stronger together, we lift, we strive. Single parents, we rise and thrive. Beyond the struggle, we rise and thrive. Turning our pain into power, we're alive. We see you, you matter, you're strong inside. Together we shine, we rise, we thrive. We push through the stigma, defy every step. They don't define us, and that's a fact. A village of love, a future so bright. Hand in hand, we own our life. Beyond the struggle, we rise and thrive. Turning our pain into power, we're alive. We see you, you matter, you're strong inside. Together we shine, we rise, we thrive. The journey is tough, but we're not alone. In this village we found our home. So lift your head, let your spirit fly. Beyond the struggle, we rise and thrive. The journey is tough, but we're not alone. In this village we found our home. So lift your head and let your spirit fly. Beyond the struggle we rise.